and welcome to Council Catch-Up. I'm Derek Westby, your host, and I'm here with Mayor Tim Swadley to talk about the council meeting from November 15th, 2022. So we had all of the normal stuff, but I see here right after roll call we had the officer promotional pinning. What is that?
Basically, we started a new tradition where we decided to do an official pinning of the officers at the city council meeting. And we had 4 officers that were recently promoted. Lieutenant Patrick Frisch, Sergeant Carson Hoper, Sergeant Nate Olson, and Detective Cole Sargent.
Awesome. That was a very neat ceremony where they brought the flags in and pinned each promotion as they are. So that was really cool. I'm glad we started that new tradition. And then there was a very long public comment period. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Sure. Since it was a budget hearing, we typically have not only a public comment, which is at every meeting, but we also have a public hearing opportunity for those that want to speak on the budget issue. So what we did is the people that were Zooming in or in the room, we gave them the option if they wanted to give their remarks for the budget during the public comment or the public hearing. And I believe most of them chose to do it during the public comment. We wanted to be respectful of their time if they had other things to do last night. So it gave them an opportunity to state their position on the issue and then go about doing the rest of their business. We had over 20 people speak last night. Most of the conversation was regarding the Whitewater Park down at the river. And we had people that supported the project as well as people that have been opposed to the project. There was an item in the budget related to that, and we can talk about the budget later on in the show.
All right. And then I see a visitor services advertising and budget presentation by our Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, so Callie LaPointe, part of her position at the Chamber is visitor services, and they're required through our bylaws for her to do an annual presentation of her budget, so she was there last night to do that.
All right. And then there was also an election update from the city clerk.
Yeah, the city clerk just went through and summarized the election results from last week. We had a 78% turnout here in the city of Stoughton, which is pretty good. Things went very smoothly, and it gave us an opportunity to thank all the poll workers and the election officials that helped us through that process.
And the public works guys that helped set it up.
Yes.
And then there was a consent agenda. You had added a few more people to your committees. And then a change in a general development plan for lots 1, 3, and 4 of 51 West.
Yes, at 51 West, which we have on a map, you'll see that there's some lots on the west side that originally I believe they were zoned for quad units, fourplexes, and with the rezoning that'll allow them to turn those into duplexes and build more of them. So we're really pleased that we can have a higher density and offer more opportunities for people to live there in 51 West.
All right. And then last time we talked a little bit about this, but also the mobile support structure ordinance changes this was the second reading for that as well.
Yeah, we basically call this one the cell tower ordinance, and what we had to do is make sure our ordinance was consistent with state law. There's been some changes that took some local control away from us. So what we tried to do in the ordinance is create a setback 200 feet from any development that would be eligible to have residential housing in it, so it would help protect homeowners.
Okay. And then, of course, you had the budget hearing, which we talked a little bit about already. And then the Stoughton Utilities budget and capital improvement plan is on here.
So basically, at the last city council meeting, Stoughton Utilities gave a report on their operations and their infrastructure budget, their capital improvement budget. And last night we just formally had to take action on that. There were no questions related to their budget.
Okay. And then you amended the capital improvement plan for some public works items. What were those?
So basically what's happening, and we talked about this when we had our committee of the whole meetings through the budget process, that our budget would be kind of a fluid document up until the final bell, and in this case right at the final bell. As we continue to have supply chain issues, the cost of vehicles went up. So this budget amendment was really to change the numbers that we had put in the public notice. Not a huge change, but a change that we want to make sure we account for due to price increases.
Okay. And then, of course, the adoption of the 2023 budget and tax levy. Anything interesting from the budget?
No, it's pretty much cut and dried. We had that one amendment going into there. Otherwise, the budget process went pretty well. We focused on some areas, especially employee retention in our budget. We maintained our current health insurance with no increased premium expense to our employees, as well as being able to give everyone a 4% raise, which isn't really keeping up with the cost of living. But given the circumstances, we were pleased to do that and be able to retain, all of our staff is a huge initiative for us to go forward. We're competing with employees, with the county, and with the private industry who have other revenue sources than we do. The county has a sales tax. Private developers can raise their prices in order to hire staff. We're limited to our net new construction, which is the increase of equalized or property values. We did have a record year of growth in Stoughton, which basically gave us the ability to generate over $185,000 in new revenue. But between the health insurance and the increase in employee salaries, that was pretty much all eaten up. But we feel fortunate that we're at least able to begin to address that, as well as adjust some other positions that we knew were below the market rate.
Well, that's good. Keeping the employees here is very important with the staffing shortages that are out there. And then an amendment to this year's budget for the Emergency Operations Center funding.
So basically, in the PD, they had some money budgeted for stoplights. So when a police car came up to the stoplight, it would automatically turn green. And what we found is that really the way the officers roll through the traffic, they get to the light quicker than that function would work anyway. And so we decided to reallocate those funds so we could address setting up a more modern emergency operations center in case there's a natural or any other kind of disaster. And we're in the process of getting quotes to put that room together.
Okay, awesome. And then another amendment for the 2022 budget for ARPA funds for the Innovation Center.
Yeah, so basically, previously the City Council had authorized funds to go toward the Innovation Center, and this procedurally really just makes sure that the money in the budget is amended so we can have a zero balance at the end of the year. They'll cut the check, and it just makes for cleaner financial reporting.
All right, and then the Viking Snowdrifters trail proposal.
So the Viking Snowdrifters is a long-standing club of snowmobilers in the Stoughton and Dane County area. And every year they come to us with basically a plan for their trail that runs along the edges of the city. And that's been changing quite a bit here the last few years because of the growth to the west, and that's typically where their trail comes in. So they provided us a map. We have very little issues with the group. They haven't had a lot of snow to work with, and coincidentally it snowed last night and this morning. But we were told that they can't actually start snowmobiling till December 10th, which I never knew. So we're excited that they'll have the ability to once again drive our trails and patronize our businesses here in Stoughton.
Yes, more tourism is always good for the city. It looks like you've got a couple of first readings coming up next on the agenda. You had one for the controlled intersection on Washington Street and 4th Street. That's right over a couple blocks from here. What is that one about?
Yeah, so that's there's a two-way stop near River Bluff School, and we decided to make a four-way stop there because the two-way really didn't help accommodate the students going across the crosswalks. So we decided to go with a four-way stop there in order to improve the safety of the children going to River Bluff.
All right, and then you have no parking on Greenbrier Drive. Where is that?
Greenbrier Drive is the new road at the end of Nygaard out on the 51 development. So if you go down kind of past Taco Bell where the new road extends, Greenbrier is the road that goes from Nygaard out to 51. And we just feel that given the traffic flow that's going to go in there and the amount of density that's in there, we'd be best served if there was no parking on the road.
Sounds good. And then 35-mile-an-hour restrictions on Highway 51 from Hull Avenue to Roby Road.
So that's the area where the roundabouts have recently gone in, and part of the deal with the roundabouts is once they were completed, the city would assume what we call the connecting highway, because it is a state highway. Typically, the state of Wisconsin does the maintaining of the roadway, the plowing, any potholes that need to be filled, any maintenance to the road. And as part of the deal, they have a formula where we agree to become the connecting highway. So we take over the maintenance at that point. One of the advantages of us doing that, other than receiving some financial incentives to do that, is it gives us control. And one of the things that we were concerned about, and we had already discussed this previously with the DOT, was to lower the speed limit coming into Stoughton. Eventually, we want to get it lowered all the way out to Highway B. Currently, we do not have the connecting highway from Roby to Highway B, but we anticipate that could occur when the roundabouts are put in out on Highway B in 2026. Okay. So basically, we're just trying to slow down traffic as you come into the city and maneuver the roundabouts.
Sounds good. And then you had a discussion on naming the parks. We had a competition, or sort of, where people would submit names. Did you guys settle on any names, or?
Yeah, so we have a process by policy that when we name parks, the Community Affairs Council Policy Committee meets, and they're charged with naming of the parks. So what they did is they have criteria that we have to follow, which we posted on our city Facebook page, and people can submit names and give reasons why. There's an application they could fill out. And we had a large amount of people that on the West Side Park, over by Stoughton Lumber is where that park will be. The Greg Standard Park was by far the highest recipient of votes, and there were several reasons why. Greg was somebody that was beloved here in Stoughton, very close to the police department and other organizations, and a large group of people just felt it would be appropriate to name the park after Greg.
All right, and any word on the other park's name, or?
So the other park's name, we do have submittals for that one as well, and the CACP committee decided to wait until the next meeting to consider those names and possibly even come up with some of their own names. So we anticipate that at the meeting in December, the first week in December, they'll consider making a selection. We will have some other park naming opportunities as the city continues to grow. There'll be a park naming out at Kettle Park West, and potentially one at Magnolia Springs as well. And then we also have some trails that we are working with our Rivers and Trails Task Force to name segments of trails. So when we put it on maps, it's easier for people to refer to the different segments of the trail, especially when you get to the lower Yahara River Trail, which will eventually go from Stoughton all the way to Madison. People that go on the trails kind of like to know names of different segments so they can know when they can start, where they can stop, what segment has whatever features might be available, whether it's restrooms or bike maintenance stations and water and those types of things. So that's another thing that we'll be working on as well.
It looks like the last item you had on the agenda was a closed session for police union contract negotiations. I'm not sure if there's anything you can share from that or not, but
basically we go into a police negotiations every year or two, and what we're hoping to do is negotiate a 2-year agreement with the police union. These are for the patrol officers, basically. And basically what we wanted to do is work with our HR director to help, set some parameters. So when they begin to have discussions, they have an understanding of what the city council's position is during the course of those negotiations. And then once the negotiation is complete, that'll become public record.
Sounds good. Well, that's all we had for the November 15th, 2022 council meeting. Thank you for joining me for Council Catch-Up.
All right. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you. You as well.